Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Theatre Pitch podcast, the podcast where Sean Brady, Joe Ranchka, and myself, Gemma Ralston, take a random online encyclopedia article and we each come up with a pitch of how we would put it into a theatre show or make it into a theatre show. And then right at the very end of the podcast, to make it all difficult for ourselves, we smush them together. How are you guys doing this week?
I'm impressed that you've done that, your first attempt.
I know, I'm very proud of myself.
Well
I'm
done.
going at it with a lot of energy today.
I'm ready to go.
I see you took on my note from last week about introducing us before I speak by just throwing our names in your opening bit, just so that
I'm just next episode, as the season goes on, it's just going to devolve. So it's going to be the words, but not in the right
end of the series.
order.
It's just going to be theatre pitch. Sean, Joe, go.
Yeah. Exactly. I think because I'm struggling with this week's pitch and this week's article, I'm just making up for it by speaking very fast and going at it with energy and commitment, because that's definitely what I know I can bring.
In that case, Jem, do you want me to tell the audience what this week's article is?
Yes.
Joe, go!
Oh. So, this week's article was the Nelson Aalen Estimator. The Nelson Aalen Estimator is a non-parametric estimator of the cumulative hazard rate function in case of censored or incomplete data. Now, just to break some of that down for you, non-parametric estimates is a branch of statistics that is based solely on parametric families of probability. So, essentially, it is based around how easy it is to predict something and the probability of it. And censored or incomplete data both mean the same thing, which is that the data set is not finished.
Oh, I was just about to finish your sentence. Yeah, of course, obviously.
Yeah. So essentially, what we're doing with this week is a statistic or a series of statistics used to form a data set, used to form an essential probability guessing metric for hazards or instances. Like, kind of predicting what happens, but specifically applied to bad stuff.
You should have used that equation to work out whether you should have done the last paragraph.
I have a B in statistics. Please don't ask me to explain this anymore.
I got an A
That was
in
at
statistics.
GCSE.
I got an A in statistics over 10 years ago. So I didn't understand any of the article, except when I was taking notes, you can see by my notepad that I've just written down the words that I understood, rather like life insurance, and then kind of put a sad face next to that, because no idea.
Yeah, there were occasions where I looked at this article and I'd be like, okay, I'll read the articles it links to, see if that explains it more, and then it would be like.
No, it just made it worse. It's not cheating. It just made it more confusing.
Yeah, it would be like, it can be used, for example, when testing the homogeneity of Poisson processes. And they'll be like, okay, what's a Poisson process? In probability and statistics related fields, a Poisson point process is a type of random mathematical object that consists of points randomly located over a mathematical space. What?
Yeah.
Why?
So you got better than that. I saw the Poisson and went, French fish. Nope,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
Cool, it's a story about a French fish who hates
this
maths.
close. I was this close to that being the pitch. Sean, how did you find it?
Easy.
Fair enough. In that case, you want to go first, Sean?
So Sean's going first then.
So, yeah, Sean, go.
Sean, go!
Right.
Oh yeah, Sean, pitch.
So you guys clearly have been worrying too much about the maths. Okay. You've been worrying too much about the process. You should be worrying more about what the answer is.
Okay.
Sean,
Okay,
it's
that's
an unfinished data set.
yeah. This one was a hard one, weren't it? So I stripped it down really to what it is before I started to work out what I could do with it. So what I stripped it down to was, this is an equation that people could use to work out whether doing something is a good thing to do or doing something is a bad thing to do. So you're just stripping it down to, it's something you do to work out whether you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. So that's my mindset. That's what I brought. Yeah. Joe, you look confused. Have I completely... I mean, I don't know what I got in maths
I'm fully
in GCSE.
understanding what you were doing.
Yes,
I was just becoming very concerned that so far this is already sounding very similar to my pitch.
Okay, well, so I stripped it down, and then I thought, okay, so I've got something there. What can I use with it? So I started thinking, okay, what happens if I'm going to use it as a plot device? I haven't really got an idea of a show or like how it's going to look or where it's going to be. I haven't got any of that because, let's be honest, it was a weird maths equation. I was never going to do it. So what I've got is this plot device, and the plot device is that we're going to tell a story, and in the story, the main character is going to be given a situation where you've got one option and you've got the other option, and that's that sort of thing. So I'm thinking something like Sliding Doors. Have we all seen that film?
Yeah.
Gemma? You've never seen Sliding Doors? Okay,
No.
So Sliding Doors, basically, you know Gwyneth Paltrow?
Yes.
So back in the 90s, before
It's
she was
her
weird,
life story. Moving on.
So basically, she's playing I want to say a graphic designer. I'm going to go with that. I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah?
We're talking the period of rom-coms here where everyone was either a graphic designer, worked for a magazine as a stylist, or was an architect.
Yeah.
And you were
Obviously,
never sure
it's the
what any
90s.
of them did for work.
She did one of them, and I think she gets fired, and she's going to the tube, and she drops an earring, and she misses the tube. Right?
Okay.
And then you suddenly have the scene again where she doesn't drop the earring, and she gets on the tube, and you jump back and forth between these two parallel universes, parallel timelines, where the only difference is she got on the tube, she didn't get on the tube, and it's how she lives her life, and you see each scene, and the way you know which Gwyneth Paltrow it is, because one will have her hair up and one will have her hair down.
It's
Simple,
kind of
easy.
Simple of that.
it's
So
kind of a
think-
bit like an earlier version of the Chaos Theory episode of Community.
Yeah.
I've liked what you've done there. I've got another pop reference for you in a bit, just so you know. Better
I'm
than
also just
I see
throwing
your
that one in
Community.
because Chaos Theory. I'm just throwing in more maths things.
Yeah. So think Sliding Doors meets the film Yes Man. You know the Jim Carrey film where he says yes to everything. Now it's that. So one storyline. So it's the structure of like Sliding Doors, where it's two narratives and where one's one, one's the other, but it's sort of the same. One is sort of like No Man, and one is Yes Man. So one's living his life to the full. One is not like, oh, that's a bit dangerous. I'm not going to have that cross on. I'm going to have that bowl of Rice Krispies. I don't know. Something like that. And then you see maybe something more adventurous than like a breakfast choice. But still, living his life. I'm sort of thinking like, it starts off like one starts off mundane and the other one ends up like, Groundhog Day, when he sort of accepted it and he's sort of just like living it to his best, and he's playing the piano, he's saving people's lives, he's become friends with everyone. So like one's mundane and one is that. Yep.
Okay.
That made me think as well, just because I was like, what would be the point of that? What would be the point of that? Like, what would it be showing? And it's really going to be showing about like how maybe sometimes it is good to play it safe, and how it is good to be cautious, but also you don't really know how dangerous or cautious you should be unless you take a little risks, which made me remember the classic episode of Star Trek Next Generation. Are we any Star Trek fans? Yep. So there's a Star Trek episode called Tapestry. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen it, Gemma?
No, I haven't.
No.
But
Okay.
I'm just going to say yes
So
every time you mention...
basically, Joe's coming in.
I was going to just say, quick plug for anyone who wants to know the answer to have I seen that episode of Star Trek? Check out the episode of Cannon Fodder with Joe and Joe, where Sean breaks down how he'd do Star Trek Nemesis to find the answer is no.
I like Star Trek.
I like the way Joe's getting so bold to skip the end plug and just go straight for the middle of the episode.
Oh, I'm just peppering the plugs throughout now.
But the reason why I'm mentioning this episode, because this episode really sums up what I would want to use this plot device that I've devised to sort of embold. The episode is Picard gets shot, I think. Something happens, and he ends up dying because Picard's got an artificial heart. Because as a kid, he got in a fight with some badass aliens. He was winning the fight, and then the one alien rocked up behind him and stabbed him in the back, fucking up his heart. He gets an artificial heart as he was like a cadet. He was like an arrogant, taking risks, and he dies. But because Q, do you know, Q's basically this god Gemma that's obsessed with Picard. He doesn't really want it to end, so he sort of gets Picard's soul. And Picard's like, oh, I wish I wasn't as flamboyant. I wish I wasn't as much of a risk taker in my youth that I didn't end up getting into that bar fight. So Q's like, all right, I've seen It's a Wonderful Life. There you go. I'll give you that. And Picard then has a chance to go back with the sort of like the maturity that he's got, where he doesn't make that decision to have the bar fight, and he ends up living his life. And then you find out if Picard wasn't like a gangster in his youth, he ends up being the most boring person in the world. He still ends up on the Enterprise, but he is like the lowest of low. He's wearing blue for a start. There's no red on Picard. He's still like, Riker pities him, and when he meets with Q again, he sort of says like, I'd prefer to die knowing that I lived instead of living a life that I'm not living to the full. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get with this maths equation. Live your life to the full. And sometimes, if you've got the time, watch more Star Trek.
I love it. I feel like I need to go do some meditation and jump off of a cliff, or in a good way, like tethered, not just jumping off of a cliff, but go live my life now. I feel like the podcast needs to stop for a bit.
Well, not right now,
questions?
Gemma. Not right now, because you might get a government fine.
I have one question. Sean, can the ending be you walking out, explaining all of that, and then being like, you know what? The moral is, let's watch some more Star Trek. In fact, let's just watch that episode now. Then you wheel out a TV like it's year 6 or something and just stick on that episode on a VHS.
Yeah.
That could be quite sweet.
And then they all sit and watch you watching them watch Star Trek.
I do have some. That's my idea. I did want to mention something at the start, and I completely forgot. I wanted to apologise to everyone about last week because I missed something, and I didn't realise until I was editing it and until someone had said like Chicago like 10 times, when I realised none of us made any John Hughes references last week. And I feel really sad considering all of us are quite big fan of like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, The Breakfast Club, and the fact that like none of us even made any reference to the fact, you know, considering all of his films bar like 2 are set in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I'm just putting that there. I'm sorry, guys.
I will point out here, I am the lone kind of dissenting voice when it comes to John Hughes. So,
but I think the show that you've just pitched, Sean, can be done in a very John Hughes way. So we will make a slight nod through that.
Oh no, I'm not putting John Hughes in this. This is maths, Gemma. This is all about the maths.
All about the maths.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And if there is one thing I would like to reference in this show, it would be obviously the curious incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which we all know is famous for ending with a maths problem.
Yeah.
So it's done. It can be done, guys. It can be done. Maths can be done in theatre. And it can be done in the round, and it can be done in a proscenium arch. They proved it. The National Theatre proved it.
The National?
The National. The National.
The National Theatre, is that where they have all the microwaves?
Yes. And at the end, I'll give you that equation, guys. See if you can work it out.
At the end. Not right now. I think we're all still so confused. Okay,
Yeah,
I think
that's my idea.
question-wise, because your idea is pitching a plot device rather than a show, I think I've got too many questions to actually ask any of them, and I don't think you've got any of the answers. So much
can make
like
some up.
the actual article, you've left me with just more questions. I like it.
Okay.
But Jem, once again, it's an unfinished data set.
Yep.
It is! Sean's presented an unfinished data set. It's very meta.
Yeah.
That's how I roll. Talking of meta,
Okay.
isn't Community a good show?
What a show.
Such a good show.
And so's
On
this
that note,
podcast.
Joe, do you have
I
any
think
other
I
questions?
should go last, as I went first last week.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
This isn't me buying for time at all.
I
he
thought that.
panics.
You know when you started and you read the whole article, I thought he ain't got an idea. He hasn't got an idea yet.
Oh, I have the... I will tell you, I have a tagline for the poster. It's great.
Okay.
It's fucking great. I'm just waiting to see if it becomes a show.
Okay.
All right. So maybe this will give you some ideas, Joe. So I read it, and it was only a few days after I'd kind of finalised my idea of my pitch that I started to fully comprehend actually what the maths was, and I did actually manage to figure it out because I was determined. But before then, I came up with a show that Sean's gonna roll his eyes at, and Joe's kind of just gonna pout at, because they're gonna know it's the most fundamentally Jem approach to this.
Okay, deep breath, everybody. It's coming.
So, the show is called Nelson Aalen Estimated. So I'm not very good at naming things. But essentially what I got from the article when I first read it, and when I read it for the next 6 times, was I got confusion. And I got a sense of life insurance was the thing that I understood about it. But mainly I got confusion, and I got cold mathematical confusion. So I have decided to create a show that is all about confusion and cold mathematical confusion. So, I will read the elevator pitch that I've written, because this is going to be the most art-wankery pitch you'll ever hear so far.
Okay, Jem,
In the
I just want to make sure, how many floors is this lift going to go? Like, are we talking 2 or 3 floors, or is it going all the way up to the top of the Empire State?
4 lines. 4 lines.
Okay.
My handwriting's
It's
not
so
exactly
weird
small.
that you're talking about lifts. You remember last week when I was on about a TED talk about flags? I actually...
Did you watch one about lifts?
I watched one about lifts and how lifts operate in, like, the tallest buildings in the world. It blew my
I thought
mind.
you were going to say we didn't mention a tall lift in Chicago or something.
Okay, hold on. So, my elevator pitch. So, in the space where life meets math and money...
Oh, I
it is
already don't
cold
like
and
it.
Feverish.
Okay, can we please have a quick punch up to maths? I'm not having this math shiz on an English podcast, sorry.
No, okay, fine. Maths and money.
Thank you.
It is cold and feverish. This is an abstract, minimalist performance, as if a Dali painting ate Brecht's epic theatre whilst choosing Antonin Artaud as God, but still dressing and acting like Death of a Salesman. I'm loving the look of confusion. I feel
going.
like I'm already getting what I'm wanting. So, It is confusion and coldness on stage with moments of lucidity that impart a kind of message that is mainly an idea and a feeling. The audience enter a space of darkness, bright lights, a person stands shining. Another person measures chairs and a desk, measures person A's stride, worried always and enforcing correction. Another person sits behind a desk, speaking gibberish, and eventually the article, a soundscape of emotive, announced vocal delvings. It's all done in 5.1 surround sound and penetrates and encompasses and discombobulates the audience. Projected images of headstones, funeral proceedings, court juries, documents, and more. A scream into the night, a scream in court, a scream in the office, at the funeral. Any images of life and living life are silent. The first person moves consciously, unconsciously, through the moments, providing a focal point for the audience. This piece is devised with the performers to perfect each moment to do unto the audience a feeling of coldness, math, and life. So it's set in a black box theatre. It is very much abstract art in its style. It's less cerebral than it is in using our art as theatre makers to do unto the audience and impart this sense of coldness and math. It's got a cast of 3, and it's end on in a black box, and the only other big set things are the big desk, numbers, meaning charts, maths. So that's the pitch, is to take confusion and the coldness, because what I finally understood is that the equation is there to figure out the time it takes from point A to point B when there are unknown variables. But it's used principally in life insurance calculations and predicting those kinds of horrible things. So it's kind of making you feel those things. I think I know more about what I want it to actually impart cerebrally, but I thought I'd go much more into Sean's lost it.
Okay,
I was alright till you went cerebrally.
Okay, can I begin questions now?
Yes.
Okay, question number 1 is more a statement. Maths.
Yes.
Question 2. In what universe are you suggesting a piece of abstract minimalism that's also Dali-esque? Nothing about Dali was minimal. That goes completely against his ethos.
I mean, Dali. A lot of the principles that he works with is this. It's basically it's mind melting. So that's what I wanted to do. Is this idea that you're like Dali's clocks. This idea that you are taking a reality and what you expect of reality, and you are bending it and you are artifying it.
And my third question, and it's a quite simple one, Jem, is who is the target audience for this show beyond you?
3rd year drama students.
Fair enough.
No. This has got you. See now you've said that 3rd year drama students. See now I know I shouldn't say this, right? But do you ever remember the show called Untitled in our 1st year? Because
I'm obviously going to say no, because once again, I wasn't a drama kid.
So
I don't.
I wouldn't say you've literally just described. So your show is Tis Confusion. That's your show, yeah?
I think I remember this show.
So, Joe, you're laughing at Gemma, and I laughed at Gemma, but this shit happens. This shit happens where people think they're being arty-farty, they're breaking down what stuff means. There was a show called Untitled in our first... It was the first show we saw.
I remember it. I do remember it. I do remember it and thinking, seminar, I'm at my desk.
So we would have been in the same class talking about it. And,
yeah.
Joe, it was that wanky. It was that, like, Gemma's ideal theatre that I'm sat there like, oh, I'm a good student. I'm sat there. I'm on time. I'm sat there, and it's like our first show, so I don't really know anyone from the department yet. I only really know like my housemates and the people I play football with. So I don't really know anyone for sure. So I'm just sat there on my own in the theatre watching it, and the auditorium is a bit dark, but it was a bit dark anyway to start off with. So there was no clear change in the space that I was sitting in. And then 3 people came on stage, but they were just chit-chatting to one another. And you know the Aberystwyth Arts Centre, there's no curtain, so it's always open. So I was just sat there. I was like, okay, they're just pre-prepping, and it's gone on for about 15 minutes, and I'm like, okay. I was like, it's gonna start in a bit, and then they went off, and then and then someone else came on, and it wasn't like oh, this is the show. It was more like, oh, I'm on stage. Oh, hi. And the whole point was that they were breaking down the, like, what theatre is, the conventions of theatre. And I didn't even fucking know that the show had started. The first indication that I knew the show had started weren't because the show was like 20 minutes in. It was because a few older people, well, I'd say older people, like third year students, were making notes. And I was there like, what are you making notes on? This hasn't started yet. And I was sober, Joe, so I can't blame like me being drunk as like, oh, I didn't get it. Didn't understand. So what Jem's described there, even though it sounds weird, people do it and make money.
In my defence against Sean bringing up and comparing what I've just pitched to Untitled, which was art without being artistic, with all due respect to the creators, they didn't go for visually stimulating. I don't know if either of you came to my third year APP project,
of course
where
not.
we took artwork, actual artwork, and we translated the artwork into a visual theatre medium,
nice,
and we were using lights.
Yeah,
and the text in it wasn't. I know my dad came to see it, and he was terribly ranty at the end about how it wasn't written, and it didn't have a narrative, and it didn't deliver onto the audience a cerebral message. And after 3 years of studying to be that good at the kind of theatre that just does stuff to you and is visually stimulating and impactful and has moments rather than speeches, I sat arguing with my dad about this in the Weatherspoons, to which I think the argument ended with something along the lines of, but I trained you to be a writer and you've walked away with a degree deciding not to write.
By the way, I did want to
Gemma's
clarify
throwing shade
here
on her dad, and I'm not okay with that. Whatever.
I did just want to clarify for anyone at home.
She's wrong.
Yeah, if you thought I was being really mean by saying, of course I didn't go to the APP thing, this isn't because I just was like, of course I wouldn't go to this show. This is because I didn't realise you had to either buy tickets for these shows or that they would sell out. So I rocked up to one of them just like, oh yeah, I'll just go and see one, I'll support my friends, and then found out they were like, do you have a ticket? I was like, no. It's a student production. I assumed there'd be 5 people in the audience.
I mean, it's that, and also you would never have come to an Imagined Solitude anyway.
Oh, I never would have gone anyway, but that's beside the point.
I liked it. Hey, Joe.
You did?
Just out of curiosity, so you tried to get into one. Which one was it?
I think it was... I can't remember its name, but I think it was one that was like an amalgamation of different Shakespeares set in an abattoir.
Really?
So it was neither of ours.
You went to that one?
It was neither of ours.
It was neither of ours.
Blue. It had fun lighting. The lighting looked really fun from the pictures I saw.
We had better
online.
lighting, okay? We had better lighting.
Yours was described as a physical theatre piece. I was never going to that one.
It's because it's abstract art.
And in my defence, I was going to go to the I was going to go to the Caucasian Chalk Circle, But then, after I'd gone to the other one that was on before it and found out it was sold out, I then found out Caucasian Chalk Circle was also sold out.
Yeah, of course it was, because it was the best one.
I'm going to move us on at the risk of alienating people who didn't come to our university. So anybody who went to uni with us, thank you for sticking with us all these years. And I hope that was a fun memory trip. But I think I'm going to stop Joe's stalling and make Joe actually pitch something for the article that he's stalling, so that he doesn't have to pitch.
I'm going to save what is frankly a perfect tagline till the end of this, because I need to pitch the show before we get to the tagline.
Okay.
So essentially, I do also have to issue a formal apology before we begin to the estates and families of Wayne Nelson and Odd Aalen for what is about to happen.
I like the way Joe's using the improv technique of just keep talking like filler until an idea comes at you.
I have my idea at this point. So.
Yes, and?
It is worth noting that with this, I have previously established I was not a theatre student. I was a film student. The history of film is littered with great examples of the odd couple. Think Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. Or Jack Lemmon and I think it's Walter Matthau again in Some Like It Hot. No, that's Tony Curtis. Or basically anything with Jack Lemmon in. Also think Mike and Sully from Monsters, Inc. You've got the classic setup of usually it's the one who's more uptight and you've got the one who's very laid back. Now, I looked at this and I thought what we've got here is a maths equation for working out the probability of events. So I thought, what if it's about a pair of mathematicians and they've been struggling at their PhD for years now because they started on an unfinished formula that was meant to be trying to prove the statistical probability of an accident. And one of them fell down a rabbit hole so far that they are trying to work out if they can mathematically predict the likelihood of every event happening at the exact right order for their entire life. They are leaving nothing to chance because, as far as they're concerned, maths contains the answers to explain everything, to prove that there is no such thing as random probability, that everything is maths. The other one is going along with this because they think there's something in the idea, but they are less drawn into it. They are more just doing this because they're interested in maths, but they aren't as involved in it. So it follows in that one of them is just going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole of getting sucked into their work, while the other one is going out and actually experiencing things and using it as an actual physical manifestation of this, of actually seeing, okay, so I do one thing, what is the chance that if I repeat this under the same exact circumstances, the same thing will happen? Meanwhile, the other one is just stuck at home, calculating, trying to work it out theoretically. You're examining the difference between the two approaches, the theoretical and the very physical, the performative. But, and here's where we get into the tagline, because, guys,
yeah,
the one thing they couldn't predict was falling in love.
Oh, no!
Yeah, that's right. It's a rom-com about maths.
It's a maths rom-com.
And I want this to kind of unfold. It's basically, I'm slightly adapting this because I'll be honest, my original pitch was very similar to Sean's in terms of cribbing Yes Man. But you
know, in yours, can the guy who's out living his life just like live every key moment from like great rom-coms? So like while the other guy's trying to work out whether he should walk around a corner with a cup of coffee, the other guy does it and then happens to walk into a movie star and he's like, oh no.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, he's so kind of basically almost paralyzed by his fear that kind of it's like, okay, I have to work out what are the odds that anything happens in this instance, that he basically does nothing. Whereas the other one is so unrestrained in his theory of being like, I have to test, I have to experience, that he ends up being almost too free. And both of them forget about the one thing, which is that essentially everything is random. All things are either created or previously existed. And yes, we will have a thumping math rock soundtrack just to keep this kind of moving.
Math rock or mathcore? I hope it's not mathcore.
Well, it wasn't going to be mathcore, but now it's good.
And the other one.
But now we're going to spin off into it being predominantly just with basically it's going to predominantly be using the Redneck Manifesto, who, if you don't know, are a great math rock band from Ireland.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
I have no questions, Joe, because I would, as soon as you said rom-com, I was like, I'll watch that.
And
I love a rom-com.
if you're wondering, Jem, before you ask, yes, at one point, there is a French fish in it.
Well, now you've sold me. Because anything with a French fish in it.
Basically, we redo the scene with the French chef from The Little Mermaid, but this time it's a French fish cooking humans.
You know, now you've said French fish, I can put Brexit hashtag on this now so we get more views.
Oh yeah, what other things can I throw in to get us more views?
Ham sandwiches.
Basically, it becomes Forrest Gump. He goes to the inauguration.
Before you do that, Joe, before you do that, because I think we're gonna have to dive down that rabbit hole a little bit more, because I'm looking at three very distinct performances and theatre shows that we've pitched. Sean's plot
we have to do
device.
This bit
now.
Yeah, we've got to do this bit now. Sean's plot device, which is essentially sliding doors, so two narratives working simultaneously, and with the point of maybe sometimes it's better to play it safe than to take a risk. Joe's Fairly Odd Couple with a maths rom-com.
The exact same show, but with mathematicians. Again, another week, Joe, where we have come up with pretty much the same thing.
But mine's got more maths and fucking.
And then Jem's art wankery show called Confusion.
Okay, so
now we have to smush these together.
Okay, so you know how on the Star Trek Enterprise there's a holodeck?
No!
Okay.
I don't know this, Sean.
Star Trek can't fix everything. But if you're listening at home and you can find a way for Star Trek to smush these three plays together, help.
Oh, good. Jem admits that it's just me and Sean doing this. Cool. So, easy way to do this. We cut Jem's short. No.
Yeah, Jem. I won't lie to you. You've made this bit hard. with your I didn't get the whole article. It confused me. So I made a show that's gonna confuse everyone else.
Yeah.
It's dark, but there's also bright lights.
So
yes.
I did want to say, by the way, because I forgot to mention it earlier, for my week's regional theatre spotlight.
Obviously, yeah.
This week's one is actually going to take place. It's going to do a tour of universities, but playing in the maths lecture theatres.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
I'm not totally against that, because I remember it must have been a couple of times, but I tried to pitch a show at uni that I could do in one of the lecture halls.
Yeah,
every time I was in there, I was thinking I could do something in this room. Because you think about it, the big ones, you've got all that open space. You've got a built-in projector. Some of them have already lights. You've got the sound system, and then was it the Hugh Owen building at our uni?
Yeah.
That one had. Oh no! In the geography building. Was it the geography building?
I don't remember the names.
Know.
I was trying to think, wasn't Hugh Owen the home of TFTS?
And anyway, so I always remember like it had two entrances on either side of where the lecturer would be, but the one that we was always in also had like two stairways going up and then one in the middle and then doors at the back. And I was like, there's so many different entrances. You could do so much. I was like, they're good spaces for performances. Just saying. Any university students out there, just like when you go into a big space, just have a look around, thinking, "Oh, I could do something here."
Yeah.
And then once you have the good idea, you then go to like the university that say they're trying to support like good ideas, and they go, "Oh no, you can't use that space. No, it can't be used for that."
I think the closest you got to having a show in that lecture theatre was painting me and a couple of others blue for a different show and making us go to the lecture.
That was all, Gemma. I felt for you that day. I was at the back. You know when you were the one, when you sort of like comments? Think, oh, this is a bad idea, but then you also simultaneously think, yeah, but it doesn't affect me whatsoever. That's how I felt that day.
It's funny you say that, Sean. He says changing the topic of conversation. Because
I'm trying to buy time to try and figure out.
So I can go on. Essentially, the way I see it, the problem with these three pitches is that fundamentally, for once, we all actually kind of represent different philosophical positions. Jems is arguing for a lack of a statement, essentially. Sean's is arguing for kind of, going with things for once and not trying to kind of work out what's happening. And mine is kind of trying to understand what is at the heart of predicting things itself and where that can lead. So I think the real problem here is that ultimately it's trying to mesh together disparate philosophies as much as it is the shows. So really what I think we have to get to the heart of here is, I'm going to ask you both a question is, do you think maths can be art?
Yes, 100%.
Sean?
Yes, I do. And to prove that, I'm going to ask you the equation of a triangle with sides that can be written in the form of n squared plus 1, n squared minus 1, and 2n, where n is less than 1, is a right angle. It can be art. It can be art. I'll send you a YouTube channel where maths can be art.
You didn't ask us a question.
I did. You need to prove the following result. Did I not say that bit?
You didn't say that, but you just said the thing.
Yeah, you
proved. Okay, I got too excited because I had the page bookmarked.
I can prove it. Because they wouldn't state it otherwise. If it wouldn't be in the play if it was false.
I mean, it's over 4 pages, Joe, and you have to show your working.
You have a copy of the play. It wouldn't be in the play if it wasn't right.
It's really good.
I'm genuinely.
I'm guessing Joe's never seen that bit. So in the bit,
I have seen the play.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't explain it to you. And any podcast person that hasn't seen it now, you won't know as well because Joe was like, "Oh, I've seen it."
Yeah, go and see it when theatre isn't illegal again.
I'll put like a bootleg link in the description. There's always one.
I'll just read the book.
Okay, I think I might have figured out a way to smush it.
Is it scrap the podcast and go home?
No.
Oh.
I think this is the most feeble attempt, but it can work because I've seen it done before. So, at its heart, Sean, your pitch, and Joe, your pitch, they are speaking to the same kind of device and the same kind of idea of you've got two conflicting life approaches smashing into one. Joe's just creates a rom-com. Sean didn't have much of what the outcome was. So I think
sliding doors. I was a rom-com as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, Sean, I think I've worked it out.
Yeah.
We just combine our shows and throw in gems. She mentioned Dali, so just put some melty clocks in the background.
Yeah. They're our lead of the rom-com is a gallery owner.
I was gonna pitch the same thing, but I was gonna say at those moments where the characters were having either moments of confusion with the math or moments of emotion, emotion is manifested in the art wankery way that I would be manifesting the emotion, with lights, and you go quite abstract and you paint a picture with our art form rather than paint or other traditionally art mediums, and you have these little pockets of just how maths has little pockets as well, and this equation has little pockets that you have to work out before you can understand the whole thing. You have your basic narrative that stems from the plot device Sean pitched and the narrative Joe pitched, but within it you have the pockets of manifested and explored emotion, just as I had explored the emotion of confusion and coldness that I got from the article. How's that as a smush?
I genuinely think that's the best we're going to get, Joe.
Yeah. Also, I think I've worked out the incredibly art wankery way that we do this. So, we take Sean's idea of the sliding doors, but both are shown on stage near simultaneously. It involves the romance element of mine, but also, just for a confusing art wankery touch, we use 2 sets of identical twin actors, so that it looks like it's both people playing through both storylines.
But where does Gems come in?
Melty clocks. I've been very clear on the melted
the two
clocks.
actors melt at the end.
At the end of it, they're just like, "Hey, shall we stick some clocks in the microwave?"
Yeah. At the end,
You just have the 2 actors reenacting a scream, and then somebody points out that's not a dolly.
No, kind of. We can just do kind of physical theatre-y stuff for the maths bits.
Yeah, we get Gecko in.
Yeah, kind of make it all. I'm trying to see if I can do Sean's thing of just randomly pulling out.
And talking of Gecko,
I moved all my
who done the
scripts over onto that
theatre
shelf.
bits for this show.
I was gonna say take inspiration from Lucy Preble's Enron, and using kind of visual elements and bits of kind of dance and industrial music and lasers and stuff to make maths interesting.
There you go. Okay, so I think I'm going to draw this up to a close before it becomes
Maths.
confusing and maths. So there you go. We've had our 3 pitches and our 4th pitch. So anybody listening, if you can explain to us this math equation properly and simply, please do. If you've got a better pitch than us, pitch it to us. Or if you just have an opinion on what we've said, please tell Sean and Joe how much my Art Wanker show would actually be really fun to watch. But other than
Gemma,
that,
no one we know will tell us that.
I know people who will tell us that.
Yeah, and we don't talk to them people.
Yeah. We didn't say you know people. We said we don't know them. There's a reason.
No, because I know that Sean knows some of my people. So,
My people.
Hey,
they're my people.
So hey, so
Joe, you tell us next week's article. Sean, you tell us where you can find everybody. Go.
to the
Right,
random
guys.
online encyclopedia I had. Sean.
Jem tried really hard there to be like a good host. She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a good segue," and then we were just there like, "Nah,
fam.
Right, hi guys.
This is just my life.
This is my turn. The end. It's in sight. So if you like this podcast, what? Right.
It's just the way that you're pitching this bit, being like, "Hey, come on, we're nearly done."
Everyone's
Come on,
thinking
Sean,
it.
you can
Right,
do it.
I
Sean,
can see the
go.
light. Right, so if you enjoyed this podcast as much as we clearly enjoy it, and if you want to see the other stuff we do, like we've got some other stuff in the works. If the Fringe is open again, we've got some other cool shows we're working on that we'll like announce. Maybe if the Fringe happens, who knows? Think positive. But if you want to find out that, you want to keep up to date, you want to find out what like the other podcasts are, what stay up to date, blah 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 blah. You can obviously go onto our website, ofitd.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at ofitd, just like with the app bit at the start. Just Google it, we're there. If you want to follow us on YouTube, do the same. Search the same thing, but put it in the search box on YouTube. And then there you go. And then you find this podcast. We're on there. If you want to see our faces, that's where you go. If you just want to hear our voices, we're on like Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, the weird podcast ones that you download when you go onto like the Play Store and you just put podcasts and you want like that one. We're on all of them. You just search the Theatre Pitch podcast and you find us. You press subscribe. You go, oh, this is good. I'm going to listen to the other ones. Yep, do that because most of them are good. If you want to follow me on Instagram and Twitter, it's still Shawnee B. Yes, I like alliteration. If you want to follow Gemma on Instagram and Twitter, you can follow her at
OFITD_Gem because I like branding.
You got it right this week, Gem. Well done. And if you want to follow Joe on Instagram and Twitter, he is at...
I'm at Not Joe Ronchka. That's NOTJOERACZKA. But
Yes.
seriously, don't follow me on Instagram. You will be very bored and disappointed. And with that, shall I tell you what we're doing next week?
Yeah, Joe.
So next week, we are looking at Irving Kane Pond. Irving Kane Pond was an American architect, author, and college athlete. Born in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Pond attended the University of Michigan and received a degree in civil engineering in 1879. He was also a member of the first football team of the University of Michigan and scored the first touchdown in the school's history. So that's right.
Okay.
We've got an architect, football hero with a sweet-ass moustache.
How many
I'm
John
excited to
Hughes films
smush
are we
this
getting
one.
next week?
Also, yeah, we're back in Chicago because he moves to Chicago after university.
Woo, John Hughes!
Okay.
Got
Yeah.
it, okay.
Cool. Gemma, this is your bit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you everybody for listening. This has been fun for us to record. Hopefully fun for you to listen to. And we will see you and hear you and not hear you, but let you hear us
No,
in the
Gemma,
next one.
that's not how podcasts happen. Like, they hear us, we don't hear them.
Yeah, I fixed it.
Okay.
We'll talk at you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. The end's here. Bye.